The music industry has changed, and if you're still stuck in the past with old hacks, you're probably not getting the results you want. Maybe you think you've done and you've tried everything, but you still can't get your songs to take off or get people to care, right? You keep putting in the hard work, releasing song after song, trying these different marketing campaigns, but barely getting any streams on your songs. If you're feeling broken down or defeated, I want to encourage you that what if you just made a few small changes in this new music industry and learned how Spotify really works? From viral songs to the algorithm, editorial playlists, and the pitching tool. Which is why I've got Selena Ung, the head of editorial at Spotify, and she's got some game-changing advice that has made me want to take my music career more seriously.
When I'm asked to give advice for artists is pitch. To us, Spotify for Artists really is there, and we read every pitch. And you don't need to have a huge team or a major label in order to pitch that to us. Mm-hmm. I'm the global head of editorial at Spotify. And what that means at Spotify, in very simple terms, is that my teams and I listen to a lot of music, right? It's our job, absolutely our job, to listen to all the music that's submitted to us. Through Spotify for Artists in our pitch tool. Mm-hmm. So we listen to music and we're responsible for curating that music and also thinking about where else in the app that I can introduce you to your next favorite song. And when I really boil it down to first principles, that is the beauty of the job that I still and my team still never take for granted. And it's a huge privilege, to be able to introduce you to your next favorite artist, to your next favorite song, and then to be part of that journey. It's very satisfying to see when you discover a song as a curator, mm-hmm. and you introduce that to various audiences, you test it, and you see it doing well and that people are enjoying it.
You can tell Selena is a real music fan, and she actually listens to 3 hours of music a day. And I love what she said, that they listen to every song that is pitched. Like, sometimes we think that, like, hey, we're pitching this song for the editorial playlist. Is anybody actually hearing it? Well, yes, their team listens to every single song, which is mind-blowing. But you hear the excitement that she has in her tone. It's like, I get to introduce this song. Like, when she finds a gem, like, think about when you hear a dope song and like you immediately want to share it with a friend because you really like it, or your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, right? You share it. Well, they have the ability to do this, but in the masses. But then they're also watching to see how it responds and then how they can promote it even more.
And also, the other aspect that we're really focused on as an editorial team is discovery. So mm-hmm. we're always looking for the latest sounds, be that coming from anywhere around the world. For example, K-pop, Amapiano. These were all conversations that came out of what we call our global curation groups, which means basically all the editors around the world get together every week and we talk about what's happening in our local countries and scenes. And then also discovery, and also introducing new music and new artists and trends. We're very focused on culture and trends, what's in the zeitgeist, what's bubbling, what's around the corner. That is the currency that we trade in.
The two things that spoke to me there as an artist is the word new. New music and new trends. So you want to keep releasing new music, but not the same thing all the time. You want to really branch out, right? Like something really different sounds, different hooks, different topics, something just completely different. And then the idea of trends. And she mentioned K-pop, right? And there's different other things that are just like taking off or are having a comeback, and knowing what is going on. And if you want to, jump on those trends and do your own thing, your own spin-off, and then you can ride that wave.
The interesting thing is, and the other side, I always think about curation and what we do as I describe it as the art and the science. So the art is the listening to music, the ears, the trends, the understanding of the culture. And there's art in how you sequence a playlist when you're curating, or how you decide how to program something. So it's in the best environment for you as a listener to take that in and to enjoy it. And then there's a science of it, which is understanding that technology. AI, machine learning, data, that is the marriage of the two. And what I think Spotify has been understood from the start is the combination of human curation with the best of technology. That has always been what has given Spotify a lead in terms of, as an industry, in terms of the editorial and curation teams.
So Spotify's not just throwing all these songs onto a playlist that are a similar genre or similar mood, but they're actually thinking about how will this feel as you're listening to it. Remember albums? And when you were putting your album together, you'd listen to it to say, oh, does that song go into that one well? And then how does the next one lead into it? But listen to this success story of an artist who got a song on an editorial playlist and how they reached out to Spotify.
And so that is a privilege, to be able to introduce an artist to an audience. And I think the latest one, I remember Arlo Park saying, when she was on the cover of Lorem and Pollen, that was really special to her, because these are playlists that she had really grown up and were influential for her listening and introduced her to other artists. Mm-hmm. And then for her to then make the cover of that playlist was particularly meaningful. And we hear that. It's so lovely to hear that, and I never tire of it. I'm always grateful for it when artists say that. And also, I can remember the first time David was on the cover of Anti-Pop. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it was just so nice to see the excitement. Like, I think sometimes people ask, well, do you get blasé about? Not at all, not ever. It's one of the nicest things about the job, and it keeps you, just reminds you why you do it. And it's very wholesome. It's very pure.
Now, don't get discouraged if you haven't gotten a Spotify editorial playlist. Keep pitching, keep releasing new music, but listen to what she shares about breaking through the noise.
We live in an age where we're always connected. We're always on. As you said, there's so much content, whether that's music, film, video. I mean, everything is content. And so the challenge now is in an age driven by technology, how do you cut through? Mm-hmm. That is the universal challenge for many of us. And it's what I think about, not just for artists, but also when I think about how am I going to get your attention? How do I introduce you to the song and artist and get your attention from the myriad of things that you have in your day? And that's really about context. And I think that social media really has absolutely been a disruptive, transformational technology that's been introduced over the past 10 or so years. And it feels like it has sped things up, and artists are able to speak directly to their audience. That's a very important point. But the other side of it is that artist development work can't ever be skipped. And if you get a viral moment or you get traction socially, that's great, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. Growing a career as an artist, from live to merchandise to streaming, my background is also in artist management, so it's spinning many plates. Mm-hmm. Social media is one aspect. If you're able to get a viral moment or get some audience attention from that, you then need to parlay that into your fan base on Spotify and your listenership. And that involves making sure that a few things like that is always woven into your call to action when you're talking to your fans. Can they go through and have a listen to your catalog? Are you creating your own artist playlists on Spotify?
So as you're building your career and you're chasing success and you do get that viral moment, are you ready? Do you have a Spotify playlist with all your songs so fans can just deep dive into it, or a body of work, album, singles? Do you have another song in the chamber ready to go, or multiple songs so that you can keep releasing more music and follow that momentum? I remember I had a radio hit and then we didn't have one to follow up with it. And guess what? We lost that momentum. Do you have a Kickstarter or merchandise? Or is there certain tour dates that you've got ready to take advantage, or a specific booking agent? Because when you have your moment, how are you going to use that to leverage it, right? Listen to what Spotify does, though.
And then on our side, we are also doing the work of thinking thoughtfully about how to place that music at the right time for you to discover it. And also not just one, the goal is, okay, you might listen to it once, but I want you to come back. I want you to come back and explore the artist's catalog. I want you to go deeper into this playlist or this listening experience, because we have many listening experiences now on Spotify. The other thing is, I think people always Obviously, the playlist is kind of the central format that we're known for. That's one side. You've got recommendations, you've got radio, you have a DJ, which we've been involved in as well. And so my programming influences across all of these things. As you said, like maybe you feel like daylist. It's ephemeral. It's fun. It's like, it's a little bit of like, you can compare it with your friends. Like that was all thought of at the beginning. Now, it doesn't mean you want to listen that way 24/7. And that's the thing. Like we have to think about how you might like to listen in a day. And it's not just the one thing on the menu. When I'm asked to give advice for artists is pitch. To us, Spotify for Artists really is there, and we read every pitch. And you don't need to have a huge team or a major label in order to pitch that to us. And also just telling us a bit about the song makes I read every pitch when I'm curating. And so those moments and that opportunity to tell us more about the music and the influence is really important to us.
Did you hear that? Don't leave the Spotify pitch blank. Use that to tell your story behind the song, why you really wrote it. But don't just skim over it. Like dig deep, peel back the layers of really why you wrote it and be willing to get vulnerable. And like, what is the hook? What is the cool reason why? And that might take a little bit of time to think about it as opposed to, yeah, we were here and this inspired us. Like really, why did you write this song? And what is it that you hope to accomplish and achieve? Share a dream, share a goal, that you want to get on this playlist or that playlist and why you think it'd be a good fit. Like take that time to really pitch, like you're pitching to Shark Tank or something like that. Like you don't just, you have this business and you want to pitch it to someone. Well, you want to have the best story possible for those guys so you get the investment. Well, you want to have the best story and the best pitch you can so that Spotify invests in you.
Like, for example, on my average day, I will do a minimum of 3 hours of music listening every day, usually more.
Wow.
And that's 7 days a week, no matter if it's my birthday or I'm on holiday. I did an hour and a half this morning. I'll probably do another hour and a half at some point today, minimum. So if we look at the best new artist nominees,
please,
right, you see that come through when you're talking about personality, authenticity. What are the things that really are only unique to you? You see that reflected in these artists who have been nominated this year. Right from the they're all very different from one another. And it's a reflection of where we are in terms of where music is right now. It very much is like the diversity, the fact that they have all very different backgrounds, but actually the through line is that they all have a very clear positioning as an artist. They know who they are. And that comes across to their audience, whether it's the focus on the songwriting and the topics that they broach to the aesthetics or a combination of all of those things. But the through line is the authenticity and knowing, having a very clear vision of who they are as an artist.
So the common success trait of these new upcoming artists is they know who they are. They are authentic. They know who they are in their image, their branding, and their songwriting. When I'm coaching artists a lot of time, I always hear the question, well, I want to make this music and I want to make that music. I want to do this and I want to do that. And there's a lack of focus and really knowing your identity and what you're called to do. If you're going to do hip hop, do hip hop. Don't mess around with country. Don't mess around with these other things. Be this one lane person and be a rock star in that lane, right? Don't try and jump all around here because then it's hard to say, well, who are you and what are you? And it's the same thing with like your images and your branding and your covers and the songs and even the topics, like when she said lyrics, like what you're writing about. And one of those artists is Jelly Roll. And so he's put his stamp down. He's doing country. He's not doing hip hop anymore. He's singing a lot more than rapping than he used to. And then his topics are all about that underdog, that struggle, drug addiction. And he's always got a spiritual thing waved in there, always talking about God, Jesus, the church, always talking about alcohol, right? Drugs. But that's the theme, and you know to expect that from him. So is there something or a topic or whatnot that we can expect from you? Right? So that we know. Now, this is a good time. I want to talk to you about my new song launch checklist. We just put this together of every single thing you need to do to make sure your song launches successfully. So there's two parts to this checklist. There's the pre-launch, everything you need to do to get the song ready for launch, and then for the day of and post-launch so that you can make sure that song is so successful. I put the link below this video. It comes with a whole bunch of video training and bonuses. I created this actually selfishly for me so that I don't forget to do all these different things, whether it's the Spotify canvas, the marquee, the discovery mode, running ads, social media posts, email lists, SMS. I don't want to stress you out, but it's all in that checklist, and I put the link below this video.
An artist's journey can start off in something like what we call a genre feeder, like, a pop rising, for example, or new pop picks.
Yeah.
Fresh Finds. So Fresh Finds is a program which we are focused on selecting very, very early tracks. Steve Lacy was on Fresh Finds with his very first track. Yeah. And then he ended up at the apex on today's top hit. So that's a really good example of that journey. His first track, we're like, wow, this is super interesting. He was an independent artist at that time because Fresh Finds is focused on independent artists. Went into Fresh Finds, and then it grew from there, got signed to a major label, and his trajectory, as we know, has been amazing. But there are many places. So we think about, how do I introduce this new artist and song to someone? And usually very thoughtfully, like just what you said, is like you need to think about where it fits as an audience. Can I introduce it into like a mood and moment playlist? Like we have a playlist called POV Main Character. Songs to sing in the car. Like those are kind of easy entry points, as well as like the niche kind of culture ones like Lorem and Pollen, and then everything in between. And then we go into like the hits flagships that kind of denote like you've got an audience, you've got a fan base, you're kind of really kind of moving up those ranks. There are many different entry points for an artist. I also think about Dermot Kennedy, who actually ended up on his first track ended up on Discover Weekly, an algorithmic playlist. As an editor, we noticed that it was doing well, and we're like, okay, interesting. We're gonna test some of these songs, and it did really well. And Dermot also himself has talked about this, where he said that he started noticing he was getting more people at his gigs, and he couldn't work out why. So he asked them, like, how did you hear about me? And they're like, oh, through Spotify. You ended up on a Spotify playlist. And that's how he grew his audience. And so we think very thoughtfully about where things are placed. Like when I think about, someone like Noah Khan, right? Straddles quite a few genres, from country to folk to singer-songwriter to pop. So whilst he might have started out in more of the Juniper's one of our newer playlists that focus on singer-songwriters. Whilst he might have started on some of the folk singer-songwriter playlists, we noticed it was doing really well. We're like, we actually think he's got a broader audience. Let's test it in Pop Rising, right? More of a female.
Interesting.
Heavily pop skewed. You wouldn't didn't know how it was going to go. Reacted really well. And actually interesting with Noah, over 50% of his audience on Spotify is younger, so Gen Z, and 60% female.
I don't know about you, but that's super inspiring to hear how this guy's song gets on Discover Weekly, and then they notice it, and then they test it in these different playlists to see if it works. And so they're giving songs a shot. And the algorithm and fans don't lie. Like, we ain't trying to fake the funk here, because at the end of the day, like, if fans are listening to the whole thing, they're saving it, they're sharing it, they're adding it to their own playlists. Like, these are all triggers that Spotify sees, and then they're like, okay, let's give this thing a shot. But then the fact that it impacted his ticket sales is amazing. So how would you get your song on Discovery Weekly or into the discovery mode so that the algorithm starts working for you? Well, start running Facebook and Instagram ads, right? Start running some marketing to one of your songs that's on a playlist. That's what we teach in our Spotify ad templates, is that you run traffic so that you get enough streams so that it can trigger the algorithm and Spotify starts sharing it out. Like, I noticed, like, it's the songs that do well that end up getting on my editorial playlists are because I promoted and marketed them. Spotify's like, hey, something's going on here. Something's happening here. And so we can't wait for it to happen, we need to get out there and get our hands dirty, right? And make it happen. But let's keep going.
Because I think I heard for a lot of moaning for some time about the state of music is terrible. And I'm like...
I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah. I'm like, you just... I disagree as well, totally. And I think and that's where I always see the opportunity is like, how do we as an editorial team address that? So for someone who thinks all music right now is rubbish, that's a challenge for me. I hold my drink.
I like
I'm going to prove you wrong. If I'm thinking about a playlist that we've launched recently that really spoke to some of the trends that we were seeing, it's Juniper, because Juniper was launched pretty recently and it really speaks to that move or that focus to classic singer-songwriter topics and subjects. And you see that in the vein of the success of Zach Bryan, Noah. I mean, Gracie Abrams as well, very focused on writing songs that really speak to the things that she experiences, mental health issues, etc.
Yeah.
And that is connecting with an audience. So it's very different actually when I hear people go, well, today's audience just doesn't care. They don't care about good music. That's not true. And we see this here. The other interesting thing as well is like, I love the cross-pollination of everything. Like Gracie on tour with Taylor, Gracie and Noah doing a track together, Warren Treaty and Zach Bryan doing a track together. Actually, the track on Zach Bryan's album, which Warren Treaty are on, is the second most streamed song off his album, only after the Casey Musgraves track.
I love that phrase, cross-pollination, which just happens to rhyme with collaborations. And it was also his most streamed track. And you got to understand, like, this opportunity to plug into other people's music careers and their Spotify profiles and everything them and their team label are doing to market them, and then you come alongside and you do a collaboration, and now whatever each of you does, it helps to grow both of your careers. I can't say enough about doing collaborations. It's probably one of the best investments, the best ROI. Takes maybe a little bit more upfront work because you got to get someone on the track, whether you're doing a paid feature, publishing, sharing a piece of the master, whatever it is, but you do that work up front, and then it makes the marketing and everything easier on the back end.
So you have all of this, and obviously Ice Spice as well, working with a lot of different artists. Fred
and
again.
She's connected to Taylor, who's connected to Gracie.
Yeah. Exactly. And another one I was going to say was Victoria's been a writer for Ariana for years.
Victoria, a very, very seasoned
writer,
professional and a writer. Same with Fred. And I think they when you look at their path to becoming a nominee, I think what they have all really done well is understand where they are in the landscape. So when we look at someone like Fred, really had been a producer and a writer for some time in the business for other artists.
Yeah.
COVID and lockdown was where it all came together because people were in lockdown.
Yeah.
They can't go out.
And his most streamed song is literally called We've Lost Dancing.
Exactly.
It's about exactly what you're describing.
So it was tapping into something broader. It's a zeitgeist moment. And I can remember hearing that song for the first time, and I got chills. I got goosebumps on my neck.
Me too.
Two powerful things there are writing what's going on in the world right now. That's just really a hot topic. It could be political. It could be social justice. It could just be what's going on, pandemic. And then writing about it, but writing about it and talking about it in a powerful way that gives people goosebumps or really challenges them. And you know those songs that do it for you, but do your songs do it for other people where they listen to it and it's like, whoa, they get that feeling.
There's a task of getting your first listen, getting your first listeners. And then the task after that is to making them come back and then actually be invested in you. And then you have a fan base. That is ultimately the journey that an artist has to go on. Now we help along all of that, and even looking at the nominees, for example, like Ice Spice and Coco were on our artist to watch list in 2022. When I look at like when we first supported these artists, it's usually on their very first track. It goes back like years.
And you're finding them from the pitches, or like is it labels coming in, or
a combination of all of those things.
Okay.
Like I get asked a lot, like, do you pay attention to what's happening outside, or do you just look at what's happening at Spotify? It's both. You can't curate in a vacuum. I can't curate or understand what's happening in the zeitgeist if I'm not tapped into it. So absolutely, I am across everything. I'm looking at social media. I'm on Discord. I'm a heavy gamer. So so when you mention your Discord, I'm like, I want to be in that Discord chat because
You'll love it.
because I love Discord. So
Yeah.
I'm in MMOs. I'm chatting with people. I'm looking at what's happening on social media. I'm also looking at what's happening on the live side. How are people? I go to shows and I look at the audience because I want to see the type of people who are on in the audience. That to me is always very interesting. Then I come back and I look at Spotify and I'm like, is it similar? Is it different? These are all the data points that we are, because all of those are data points. Like people think that it's just numbers on a screen, but actually going to a live show and looking at the audience, that's a data point that you've got in your head that fills out the picture of where that artist is and where perhaps what trajectory or path they might be going down.
I hope this video gave you some inspiration to go make some more music, go market it, and just kind of get an understanding of what Spotify is really doing over there, and that there is an opportunity for you to get known, grow a fan base, have a real music career. Again, I put all the links below, whether it's Spotify ad templates training, our song launch checklist, or anything else. Just keep taking action, and remember, a fighter isn't someone who never fails. A fighter is someone who never quits. So keep going. Peace.